Honestly, I don't even know how to start this video, but I think it's time. Okay, I feel it within my soul that it is time for me to make this video. So here goes nothing. Now, my friends, the people who know me in real life, they've had these conversations with me. So things that I'm about to say, they won't really come as a shock to those people. But to my supporters, to the people who maybe haven't had those conversations with me before, this video might catch you a little bit off guard. Now, people always ask me my personal beliefs about God, about religion, spirituality, so on and so forth. And I always kind of dodge the questions because I feel like my beliefs are so radical, but at the same time, I feel like they resonate with everybody if they really truly look within. Now, for those of you who have been following my channel for the past few months, you would know that I've been doing a lot of shadow work, okay? I have been absolutely through it in these last few months in terms of my mental health, in terms of my spiritual health, and my emotional health. I've been doing a lot of shadow work, a lot of healing, and what I've realized is that all of my traumas are rooted in one foundational illusion, which is the illusion that we are separate. Now, I want to reference a quote, or I guess a bar or a line from one of Kendrick Lamar's songs off of his recent album, Worldwide Steppers. Okay, Worldwide Steppers is the song that this bar is on. In the song, he says, "My genetic build could build multi-universes, the man of God." Now, I made a community post sharing that quote because it resonated with me at such a deep level, and I've been dropping all of these subliminals about my belief system, but like I said, I guess I just wasn't in a space where I could articulate it properly, but now I'm in that space. I think that line went over a lot of people's heads. I think that a lot of the bars or the lines in this album in general, and really just in life, okay, in spiritual teachings from people like Eckhart Tolle and Deepak Chopra and pretty much any other spiritual or religious leader even, I feel like these things go over people's heads because they try to perceive them from the egoic space. Okay, understand that if you are coming from a place of perspective, having a limited individual perspective, you will never be able to conceptualize, much less experience, the feeling of oneness. Okay, now, I know that based on the title, this video probably drew in a lot of religious people. And I want you to understand that although I am not religious, in a sense, I am religious because with what I'm about to tell you guys, essentially, this is at the foundation of every single religion and every single belief system. Okay, so basically, I want you to ask yourself something. Okay, the God that you have been taught to believe in, and I'm not saying that that God is not real. That is literally the opposite of what I'm saying, but the God that you've been taught to believe in, is that God finite or is that God infinite? I want you to really ask yourself that, ruminate on that. You might even need to pause the video and take some time to reflect on that. Okay, is God finite or is God infinite? You know within your heart that God is infinite. And the reason why you know that is because of the feeling of faith. Okay, faith is what enables you to overstep your limiting belief systems, to heal all of your traumas because, to my point earlier, all of your traumas are rooted in the illusion of separation. They're all rooted in the illusion of separation, even from the perspective of an optimistic nihilist or an atheist or anybody who isn't necessarily spiritual. Their foundational beliefs are typically in alignment with the teachings of religion, except that they don't realize it because, like I said, everybody has a tendency to kind of approach things from the egoic perspective. Now, assuming that God is infinite, okay, which is probably the answer or the conclusion that you came to, assuming that the God that you believe in is infinite, how is it that God can be separate from you? Okay, I need you to really ask yourself that. Infinite by definition doesn't enable separation, and yet it does. Okay, and this is the mindset that I need you guys to be on if you want to truly comprehend what I'm saying. Okay, you have to understand that infinite implies a place beyond duality. Infinite implies that either or is not real. Everything is an and proposition, not an either or proposition. You don't have to make choices in that space, in that dimension, the dimension of oneness, which is at the core, the only dimension that truly exists. Okay, now, I know I'm all over the place. Like I said, I knew that it would be very, very difficult for me to truly articulate this in a way that makes sense to people because, truth be told, you can't really rationalize the things that I'm saying. You just have to experience them for yourselves. Now, some people, they experience the feeling of oneness via ego death, okay, and especially from psychedelics. Me personally, I am straight edge. I have committed to my journey without the use of psychedelics because I want to prove to people that it is possible to find this truth, not just know it conceptually, but find this truth and experience it for themselves without the use of any external aids. Now, everyone has their own individual journey. I'm not here to put you down if you do psychedelics or if you have any other rituals or practices that you utilize to find this inner truth and to cultivate this inner truth, which another word for this inner truth is faith. Faith is proof that we are all one. Faith and intuition. Okay, faith and intuition go hand in hand because they are both inherent feelings that you feel without any external reference to prove to yourself that those feelings are justified. Okay, so in that understanding, at the foundation, at the core of that understanding, you will find oneness. You'll find oneness. Everything is connected. Another thing that Kendrick Lamar said, everything is everything. Everything is everything. Do not let that go over your head. Okay, I am all of us. Look, you have to understand that when you find this truth, you'll see it literally everywhere. Okay, all of the things that I'm about to say, they're going to sound crazy. They're going to sound off the wall. But like I said, I am completely sober. Okay, these are conclusions that I've reached through life, through observation, through rumination on my experiences, especially my experiences that I've outlined in my book, Soul Shock, and all of the other spiritual teachings that I've consumed or been a part of in my adolescence into my young adulthood. Now, with that being said, okay, everything is everything. What does that really mean? What does that imply? What does that insinuate? It insinuates that everything is one. There is no separation. Another example of this is from a book that I'm reading right now from Deepak Chopra. I think it's his newest book. It's called Abundance, The Path to Inner Wealth. I would highly recommend that you guys read that book if you haven't already. But in the book, he talks about yoga. And I'm not just talking about the physical practice of yoga, but the spiritual practice of yoga. What is yoga? Yoga at its essence is the understanding that the inner world and the outer world are actually one world. They are one world. And the understanding of this, which requires you to transcend your ego, the understanding of this dissolves all of the boundaries between you and the world that you perceive, which ultimately the world that you perceive is just a projection of your inner self. And at the core, it's all the same energy. Now, I understand that everything that I'm saying may seem completely irrational, none of it makes sense to you, and that is perfectly fine. You may not be in a place where you can understand that yet, and that's okay. Okay, a year ago, if I had watched this video right now, I wouldn't have been able to even conceptualize it, much less understand it at the essence of my being. Nevertheless, okay, I'm planting the seed in your mind about what God truly is. Because when you find this truth, you realize that the truth has always been within you. Okay, and I figured this out because in doing my shadow work, I realized that all of my traumas came from the same place. The feeling or the illusion of separation. The illusion of separation. Okay, the feeling that I am separate from somebody else. The feeling of victimization, for example. I had a victim complex. The victim complex is only possible because of the illusion of separation. How can I be a victim of anyone else except for myself? And even the fact that I'm able to have a victim complex is a testament to my power and my free will as a creator. Imagine having the power to create a situation in which you seemingly don't have power. And yet, in that proposition lies the fact that you do have power. You can never get rid of your power. So is that truly free will? Like I said, these things occur at a dimension beyond either or propositions. Okay, so if everything is everything, there's no room for separation. And yet there is. Hence why we experience reality the way that we experience it. Now, to break it all down in the most simplistic way possible, okay, this is the way that I see life. I see life as we are all one universal energetic body. This universal energetic body is known as God, it's known as Allah, it's known as the universe, it's known as everything. Okay, it's known as anything and everything that you've ever been taught was that higher power. Okay, that higher power, which in reality, it's not a higher power because it's within you. To my point earlier, if God is infinite, how can God be outside of you? What does infinite really mean? Infinite means that it is all-encompassing, all-inclusive. And like I said, if you look within yourself, if you dig deep enough into that rabbit hole, you will find God. Just like I have. You will find God. And I'm using that term, I'm using the word God, but ultimately it's interchangeable with any other higher power that you believe in, even if that thing is the universe or science. Ultimately, something has to give us the ability to expand beyond our limiting belief systems. Otherwise, we would still be where we were when the human race started. Okay, you have to think about it. What created the idea and the faith in the idea of YouTube, for example? YouTube had to start off as a concept in somebody's mind. And you could argue that maybe their idea was built from other ideas. But ultimately, there are things which don't have any external reference. It's just that a spark of creative wisdom flows through somebody in a spontaneous moment of clarity. And any creative knows precisely what I'm talking about. This video right here, I wasn't even supposed to film today. Okay, I'm supposed to be watching Netflix or something like that. I've already filled my quota for the week. But this video appeared in my subconscious as a spark of spontaneous creative wisdom. Spontaneous creative intelligence. What is that? That is God. It is faith. They're all the same thing. It's also present moment awareness. Okay, the practice of present moment awareness, especially in nature, allows you to slowly but surely experience the feeling of God, of the universe. The understanding that you are part of the whole, and yet you are the whole itself. Another analogy that I like to use is a puzzle. Okay, think of a big jigsaw puzzle. Think of an infinite jigsaw puzzle, actually. You are a piece of the puzzle. And when I say you, I'm referring to your ego. Okay, I'm referring to your perspective. You have a unique individual perspective. Without your individual perspective, the puzzle is not complete. Without your individual perspective, the puzzle is not infinite. It cannot be an infinite puzzle if it's missing a piece. And yet, when all the pieces are intact, as they always are, because existence is a law of creation, hence infinity, that means that you are the puzzle. You are the entirety of the puzzle. When all the pieces are put together, you don't have puzzle pieces anymore. You just have one big picture. That big picture is known as life. That big picture is God. Everything is everything. Like I said, I apologize if I'm all over the place. I'm just kind of putting my thoughts out there. Maybe this will resonate with one person, and that one person can maybe take my message and clarify it even further. Nevertheless, okay, God is everything. Okay, we are universal consciousness. We are God. We are creative intelligence. We are the universe itself. We are all of these things, and yet we are also our perspectives. We are one universal energetic body experiencing itself through the scope of these individual perspectives. The way that I've been shown in my mind's eye when I meditate is imagine an infinite being and then imagine an individual being. You are the intersection of the individual and the infinite. Okay, when you truly, truly grasp that, you will have found God. Because you realize that you're not just the infinite and you're not just the individual, you are both. Because like I said, the realm of creation occurs beyond duality. Okay, and that's something that I feel can be limiting in terms of religion, in terms of science, in terms of every man-made concept of this one inner truth, is that duality and external reference points is how we define ourselves. But in reality, we're all limitless beings. Okay, this is what gives power to manifestation. And if you really pay attention to a lot of the most successful people, especially people who consciously practice manifestation, such as myself, you will see firsthand that they all believe that everything is connected. They believe that they have a lot more power, they have a lot more personal power, which is freedom, than we've been led to believe through the teachings of duality. Now, I'm not going to get into the reasons why that is. Okay, we could obviously talk about institutions and churches and how they like to pedestalize themselves to maintain their power, and they basically operate as corporations. I'm not going to get into that. Okay, that's a whole different discussion for a different day. And personally, I prefer to not get swatted. Okay, I prefer to not be assassinated. Look, man, I know I am all over the place, but I'm trying to plant the seed in your mind. Okay, I made a video recently talking about all of the books that have changed my life. And towards the end of that video, I talked about one hidden truth that lies within all of those books. But in reality, when you find this truth, you don't just see it in those specific 11 books. You see it everywhere. Okay, when I walk outside and I look at the trees take on a different energy now because I see myself in the trees. Something that I read about in The Alchemist, and I don't want to spoil the book, but this is something that I think is imperative for you guys to understand. The universal language of life. What is the universal language of life that transcends language? It transcends cultural customs. The universal language of life is love. Okay, love. But what is love? A lot of us conceptualize love as romance. We use it synonymously with romantic relationships or familial relationships. I love you. Okay, but what does that really truly mean? Love is when you see yourself in somebody else. Okay, and this is why I personally believe that love, especially in its deepest form, is pretty much the gateway into this inner truth. Okay, when you utilize love in that way, you'll find that love in and of itself is a psychedelic. Everyone has their experience that brought them to that inner truth. And like I said, I've outlined my personal experience in my book, Soul Shock, which I will link down below. But my point is that love enables you to see yourself in everyone and everything if you allow your love to expand. If you allow your love to expand such that you see yourself in all forms of life. And like I said, being in nature is a great way to do this because you understand that you're not just a piece of the puzzle. You're the puzzle itself. You are nature. When you truly understand that at the core of your being, at the essence of your being, that is when you have found enlightenment. This is what enlightenment truly is. Enlightenment doesn't take you a lifetime. Enlightenment takes you a moment. And yet a moment is a lifetime because time is an illusion. That's a whole different discussion for a different day as well. But a moment in time is all that we ever truly have. Because like I said, everything is everything. Infinity transcends space. It transcends time. Then all you have is the here and now. An infinite here and now. I know I'm all over the place. I apologize, man. I apologize. I'm just getting my beliefs out there. But basically, we are God. You are God. And if you deny that truth, that is perfectly fine. But understand that in that denial, you are also denying the nature of God, the infinite nature of God. So if you want to sit here and say that God is not infinite, then hey, that's cool. Because like I said, God exists at a dimension, at a realm that is beyond duality. Therefore, I can have my belief and you can have your belief, and they are both equally valid and equally true. We have the free will to choose beliefs which are limiting. We have the free will to choose beliefs which are fear-based, which are rooted in duality. Or we have the free will to choose beliefs which are rooted in integration, which are rooted in self-love and by extension, the love of all. We have the free will to choose to go down that rabbit hole of our traumas and find the same truth that I speak of, and that has been passed down from generation to generation. Like I said, you can find this truth for yourself. All you have to do is look within. It's already there. It is already there. It is you looking for an external truth, you trying to find the truth outside of yourself in material items, in that relationship, which, like I said, that can be a gateway into it. But ultimately, to my point earlier, the only way that you can really love somebody is to see yourself in them. But once you understand that yourself is not just the egoic perception of who you think you are, your name, your identity, your culture, your age, and all of that stuff, that's when you find your true self. And when you find your true self, you realize that that person that you love, that's your true self as well, as are the trees and the flowers and animals and the sky and the sun and everything in between. God is infinite. God is an infinite being. Everything is everything. Okay, and you can find this in any religion. Any religion. It all comes down to faith. Faith, that inner feeling, that understanding that there is something more than what you see or perceive with your physical senses. That right there is not only proof of God. Faith is God.